Red-winged blackbirds are common birds here in the US, so you've probably seen them among rural ditches or around ponds, especially in the late fall and winter, where they're striking black with their red shoulders just stands out. A male defending his territory might be managing basically a bird harem of 2 to 5, even up to 15 females. These birds are so fascinating, and there's so much to them that meets the eyes. So we're going to learn some really cool things about red-winged blackbirds. Also, this video was by request, so it was really fun putting this one together because they are such cool birds. Right off, we should actually talk about their females. First of all, when it comes to birds, there are certain birds that really stand out to us. They're really easy to identify. Cardinals, robins, blue jays. I'm guessing that these were probably the first birds you were easily able to identify. But then comes all the little brown birds, white-crowned sparrows, white-throated sparrows, house finches, house wrens. When first starting out, they are really hard to differentiate. And add to this list the female red-winged blackbird, which is also kind of funny because we're talking about a bird in the blackbird family, and blackbird is in the name, but when it comes to the females, they are not black at all. At first, that does seem a little surprising, and again, it is kind of funny, but once you really think about it, it's not surprising at all because a lot of female bird species are pretty muted compared to the males. Her brown color gives her that survival edge, helping her disappear when nesting, because female birds are especially vulnerable during incubation. The next time you're out and you happen upon a bold red-winged blackbird just singing and showing off his stuff, look around to see if you find a streaky brown bird, and you've probably got the female. To ensure better identification, look at her beak. I always describe a red-winged blackbird and other blackbird species as having like a wedge. They're pointy, but not as rounded out looking as like a wren's beak or a bluebird's beak. And then she'll also have a streaky breast and a tan eye stripe. If you see all that, you've got yourself a female red-winged blackbird. The next interesting thing about red-winged blackbirds is about their status as backyard birds. They aren't exactly backyard birds, but then again, they can be. This usually depends on time of year too. During breeding season, red-winged blackbirds are strongly tied to wetland habitats. They need cattails or dense marsh vegetation for nesting. So if you have a pond or a retention basin or even a weedy drainage ditch near your property, you might have red-winged blackbirds as neighbors during your spring and summer months. But for general backyards, you're probably not going to see them, not on a regular basis during the breeding season anyway. Come fall and winter, things change. Those territorial marsh-bound birds transform into members of roving flocks, and these flocks can be so big that they include thousands of individuals. This is when you might see one or a few coming into your backyard. And I actually want to know if you have seen one come to your feeders and whether it was like a lot, like if you had flocks coming to your feeders, or if it was just one here and there. During the breeding season though, I mentioned about the little harems that they can have, or sometimes even larger situations. What is interesting is that using DNA analysis, researchers found that despite all the male's territorial guarding and his big aggressive displays, up to 50% of the nestlings in his territory may not be his. This is not uncommon among songbirds. Many species are considered socially monogamous, where they tend to the nest together and they tend to each other during the nesting season, but they aren't sexually monogamous. And there's a biological advantage here because it introduces more genetic variety. What is different about red-winged blackbirds compared to other species is the fact that a male manages multiple females, and that introduces a new challenge when it comes to nestling care. So male bluebirds, robins, cardinals, chickadees, these are some of many types of songbird species where the male is very involved in provisioning their nestlings. So they'll take care of the mom while she's incubating eggs, and they'll help bring food while the nestlings have hatched. Male red-winged blackbirds will also do this, but when you have a few nests going on, it makes it really hard. Keeping up with one nest takes a lot of energy, and songbirds can lose up to 20% of their body mass during the nesting season. Now let's imagine a red-winged blackbird having 3 to 5, even up to 15 nests, maybe at different periods. What researchers have found is that male red-winged blackbirds are more likely to feed nestlings that reside in the most advanced nest when he has multiple nests going on in his territory. This is actually a good way to go because older nestlings are usually more demanding and have increased food needs. So that kind of moves us into nesting facts. A male red-winged blackbird will manage a territory that is about half an acre in size. Female red-winged blackbirds choose the nesting site, and she'll construct her nest by weaving long strands of grass and other plant fibers around several upright stems, creating a really nice platform. And then she adds wet vegetation, kind of just mashes and plasters it inside with mud to reinforce it. After she builds her nest, she may lay between 2 to 4 eggs per clutch and have 1 to 2 broods or sets of babies. The incubation period is between 11 to 13 days, and this is how many days after she's laid the eggs where she's sitting on the eggs before they hatch. Once they hatch, they'll only be in the nest for about 11 to 14 days, usually on the outer edge of that time period. While they nest in marshy wetland areas, they're known to forage over a mile away from their territory in fields and orchards and sometimes even woodlands. What's really neat about these guys is that they are known to feed on a lot of crop-destroying insects. During the breeding season, even just a single pair feeding their young can consume thousands of insects in just a few weeks. They're also amazing seed dispersers. In fall and winter, they eat seeds from a wide variety of plants and then deposit them or poop them out in new locations. Red-winged blackbirds have an extensive range in the United States that pretty much covers the whole country. There are also breeding populations that reach northern Canada, even into Alaska. These northern populations will migrate. Like many other songbirds, male and female red-winged blackbirds will migrate at different times, and they can even travel to different places. Far northern resident males migrate first in the spring, arriving on breeding territories sometimes weeks before the females. They're out there singing over frozen marshes, staking out the best territories before the females arrive. Another interesting fact about their migratory habits is that females often winter further south than males. While they are really abundant birds, when you sit down and really learn about them, you discover how complex and interesting they are and how they play a really important role in maintaining the health of our ecosystems.